Welcome to Forum 360, the show with a global view but a local perspective. Today we have from the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women from Case Western Reserve University, the Executive Director, Angela Clark-Taylor. Welcome to Forum 360.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm your host, Sally Henning. Would you start by telling us a little bit about what the Center for Women is about?
Yes, absolutely. Well, as you said, I'm the Executive Director of the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women at Case Western, and we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and our mission is to work in the campus and local community to empower women and advance gender equity through research-informed action.
Well, I'd like to point out that I understand you have about 18 years of experience
I do.
on this, and the 20th anniversary of the center is on October 18th, 2023.
It is on October 18th, 2023.
So 18 is a lucky number.
Yes, it is actually. Yes, you know, I've been at the Mather Center for about 4 years, but before that, I've worked all over the country in New York and California, and chose to come back to Ohio to run this center because of how I think unique it is among women in gender centers in higher education.
Let's a little bit more about your background. You also are an assistant professor.
I am. I'm also a research assistant professor at the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel School for Applied Social Science. I do research around gender equity in higher education, women's staff, and trauma in the workforce, and how that limits or advances women's careers.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you get into this field?
Yes, absolutely. Well, actually, so I'm a first-generation college student, and I grew up on Long Island in New York, and that's where I went to school at SUNY Westbury. And my mom really encouraged me to go to college, and
State University of New York.
University of New York, yes. And she graduated college the year I graduated high school. And so she was a very big proponent of what education could do for women.
What
and
a
so
role model.
Isn't that amazing? And she encouraged me to go to SUNY Westbury. And what I didn't know about SUNY Westbury at the time is that it was the home of the feminist press, the first press for feminism and women's issues in academia. And many of the faculty, though that was a long time ago in the 70s, I went there in the early 2000s, they were a big influence on me. And so I grew up knowing how important education was to women, but my mom really raised me with a sense of being engaged in the community. So I went there thinking I was going to do community work, be a teacher, work for a nonprofit, just contribute to my local community in some way. And that quickly, for me, based on the support I received there, the education I received there, it became women's education. And so when I look back, it's like a no-brainer. But at the time, I went thinking one thing, and really my life's experiences, my mom's influence pushed me in that direction.
I bet she'd love to hear that.
I tell her all the time. I don't know if she hears me.
How did you get to Cleveland?
Yes. So, you know, when I graduated college, I joined Rochester AmeriCorps in upstate New York. And that placed me actually working with a domestic violence research institute through the University of Rochester. And quickly I started hearing all about the Rust Belt area, the Great Lake region, and what the different cities had to offer. And at the University of Rochester, we thought very highly of Case Western Reserve University. We thought of them as a real peer. And so I would come to Cleveland for conferences across the two universities, honestly, to see some music from time to time. And the Flora Stone Mather Center became on my radar. And though my career kind of had some twists and turns as I got my PhD and worked for different universities around women and gender equity issues, I always sort of had my eye on the Flora Stone Mather Center. And when the position became available, I applied. And now I'm here.
What did you know about the Flora Stone Mather Center before you worked there?
It's a great question. So I knew that the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women came from the Mather College for Women at Western Reserve University, and that it was a women's center started by a women's college. Why would that be important? So these women's centers that are started by women's colleges have usually a richer history in the community. There's more community and university collaboration, and that was something that was really important to me.
How many women's centers are there in the United States?
That's such a great question. I was actually doing some research on this recently. There's about 380. We think 383 women's centers.
In the United States or all over the world?
In the United States.
And all over the world?
I don't know all over the world, but I do know that the other two huge places for women's centers at universities are in South Africa and in the UK.
In the United Kingdom.
Yeah, the United Kingdom.
So we're talking about the Women's Center here in Cleveland from the local perspective, but we're also taking a look at what are the global needs with respect to Women's Center, and does your center get involved in promoting these issues as well from the global perspective?
Absolutely. So, you know, we have over 20% international students, so thinking from an international perspective is really important. We couldn't address those in our campus or local community if we didn't. So there's a couple ways we do it. So it's those individual needs, helping folks get their education here in the United States and see the way that gender and women's issues might be different here. But it's also working with our departments on campus, and also you know, working in our local community to think about how the issues are both, like you said, local and globally connected. So we think about women's rights in a broad issue that way: access to education, access to healthcare. One of the big things we do too is women's access to STEM initiatives and to capital to start their own entrepreneurship businesses.
To STEM initiatives?
Yes, yes.
And what are STEM initiatives?
Yeah, so it's initiatives for women and girls in the local community and abroad to think about how they might have a career in science, technology, engineering, math, or medicine.
Is that directing them into resources, whether financial or counseling, to help them make those kinds of choices?
Yes, it's such a great question. So we work with girls in K-12 through different schools and community agencies, introducing them to science and technology and math at a young age and encouraging them. But then at the college level, we also give research grants and professional development grants to women staff, faculty, and students so that they can explore those interests. But one of my favorite things we do is a program for undergraduate women who want to start a business that has to do with science or technology. We put women in teams together because we know that most startups are in the STEM fields come in groups, but women tend to try and work on their own, and they often don't have a lot of access to capital. So we give them some startup funding, and we put them together and teach them some basic entrepreneurship and business skills and help them launch their first business.
You know, we recently interviewed a couple of women scientists from Case Western Reserve University, Lydia Kinsley and Joanna Nagy from the physics department.
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and they did a wonderful job on the show, but they're talking about their achievements in the field of physics is incredible.
Yes, yeah.
They're very amazing ladies.
Yes, yes. We have a lot of wonderful faculty at the university that serve as mentors as well as alum in the community. So we partner a lot with local corporations that have a lot of our alum, like PPG or Lubrizol, Parker Hannafin, and then they come back and mentor young women who are thinking about entering industry. But we also have faculty that will help support their work, but they'll also mentor our students and students in the community towards thinking about a career in academia as well.
Wow, do you work with like the engineering department in selection and placement of students, women students in industry?
Yeah, what's really interesting is so they work on the selection and placement, but let's say, for example, that the student wanted to do an internship in the summer and it was unpaid. We have funding to pay them. Let's say a student wanted to work with a faculty member on their research, but the research grant didn't cover that. We would cover that for them. So we try to find ways to get more women into these opportunities.
And where is the source of the funding for this?
That's such a great question. So we actually have some university funding for our staff, but we also seek funding through gifts from our alumni, community members, through endowments, and then also we have a lot of wonderful partners in the greater Cleveland community that fund different projects. So for instance, Prize is supported by an endowment from Sue Klarich, a local philanthropist who recently passed away, who wanted to find the next Marie Curie. That was her big focus. And then it's
Marie Curie, the physicist.
Yes. And then the other component is like PPG helps support the other part of that program and through their foundation.
Wow, so much to talk about. Tell me a little bit about Flora Stone Mather, the person.
Oh, that's such a great question. So you had asked me before too about why the Mather Center was on my radar, and I mentioned the Mather College, and part of that is Flora Stone Mather's legacy. So when Flora Stone Mather was alive, she was the daughter of Amasa Stone, and I can't remember her husband's name. She married Samuel Mather, and she ended up becoming the heir to her father's railroad business here in Cleveland. and across the nation. And at the time, she was one of the greatest women philanthropists of her day. She focused on women and children's issues. She started the college for women. She started a settlement house in the local community, and she gave to many community issues, often when asked by the community themselves. And in her lifetime, nothing was named after her, because she was so adamant that she was supporting these causes of collectively that women had come together to support, that it wasn't about her.
Very modest woman.
Yes, it was about supporting other women's initiatives, supporting other women starting the college, supporting other women starting the settlement house. And so her legacy, after she passed away, everybody wanted to name everything after her that she had contributed to, because of that legacy of supporting others. And we've tried to carry that on a little bit, knock on wood, at the Mather Center with our initiatives. We always think about our role is to support and empower others.
And how do people find out about the Mather Center?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to the CASE website, it's /Center for Women, or you can Google Mather College. We're also on Instagram and Mather College, Mather Center. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of people may have seen us in the community and don't know. One of the other things I was mentioning about, you asked of how I knew about the center before, we are the most comprehensive center for women and gender equity in the country. Most centers for women only do work with faculty, only the community, only students, only STEM, right? Only feminism or research. We do all of those things, and we also have a learning lab called the Women's Educational Learning Lab, that uses all of these programs as a way to inform other women and gender equity centers in the country and learn from them as well, learn in collaboration together, and try to improve best practice for all of us across the country.
And people can email the Mather Center at mathercenter@case.edu.
That's
right?
Yes, and also email us at mathercenter@case.edu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the phone number is 216-368-0985.
That is correct.
Okay. Talk about the 20th anniversary program, please.
Oh my God, thank you so much for asking. So on October 18th, just in a few weeks of 2023, we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary with a symposium called Flora 20, The Exponential Power of Women. And this is a symposium and a celebration about women's leadership and philanthropy in the greater Cleveland area. It's going to be hosted at the Tinkmanville University Center at Case Western Reserve University.
And would you say that again? It's going to be where? At
the Tinkmanville University Center.
Tinkmanville University Center.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, on Case Western's campus. It begins at 3 p.m. and will go to 6 p.m. The program includes a recognition of 20 women who, like Flora Stone Mather, have supported other women through their leadership and philanthropy. And there will also be a series of keynotes, Jessica Jackley and our own alumna, Ramona Hood, who is one of the first women CEOs of a FedEx corporation, who's going to speak about the importance of women's education and philanthropy and leadership.
You've been tuned into Forum 360. I'm Sally Henning. Our special guest today is the Executive Director of the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women at Case Western Reserve University. The Executive Director is Angela Clark-Taylor, who I understand your students call you Dr. Act.
They do, actually, Dr. ACT.
Dr. ACT,
Yes, everybody always sees that and says Dr. Act. Before I had my PhD, my students have always kept trying to call me professor and doctor, and I said, no, you can just call me Angela. And they were always like, no, we can't. Like, I was, for a lot of students, one of their first women professors, so they started calling me ACT. And then when I got my doctorate, it stuck.
That's so beautiful. So we were talking about the events of the 20th.
Yes.
Of the 20th anniversary. Would you tell us a little bit more about those events? And
Yes.
you were saying that the head of FedEx is going to be one of your featured speakers.
Yes, the CEO of one of the FedEx companies just down south a little bit in Ohio, Ramona Hood, is going to be there doing a fireside chat, actually with me, talking about the work that she has done to support other women in their careers in business. And she's an alumna of Case Western Reserve. And one of the reasons we really wanted to have her come join us is she is known for her ability not only to be an important leader, but to bring out the best in other leaders. And we wanted to bring her to talk a little bit about that. And this is an event that's open to the community. So we're having students there, faculty and staff, but we also have many alumni, community members, local nonprofits and corporations. The Girl Scouts, for example, are a sponsor. So it's really an event open to the entire community.
What are some of the other activities that'll be going on?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll be doing some facilitated networking discussions about thinking and reflecting on the ways that our community service, fundraising, leadership may contribute to the kinds of change we want to see in the world. We're going to do some fabulous facilitated activities about what we think 2033 might look like. So one of the things we're going to talk about is it can be really hard to imagine a year from now being much different than now, but when you imagine a decade from now, it helps.
That's almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. It frees up your imagination to be able to think about, right, some, to think broader than you might if we just ask you, how would you like things to change in a year for women and gender equity?
And then what can you do about it?
And what can you do about it, exactly, yeah.
Who came up with that thought?
Yes, so actually, a student parent, Dina Valesky, is a partner of mine working on this. She's one of our committee members, and she is an executive educator and coach, actually out in California, and her son is a student at the university.
Really?
And so she's working with us on this project, and she has some fabulous ideas about the ways that we can inspire other women to see their role in advancing gender equity.
And will there be media involved in this?
So I think in the sense of like the local media, or media in the sense of the videos and both.
Sure.
Yeah, so we hope so. So we're here talking with you, and we hope to talk with some other folks over the next coming weeks. The Women of Color Foundation's magazine, CL Magazine, is going to do a spread on our 20 Flora awardees. So we are awarding 20 women in the community an award for embodying Flora Stone Mather's legacy and supporting philanthropy and leadership. And
tell us about more of the categories.
More about them. Yes, so the main category is really just having been involved in doing that for the community. So supporting other women, supporting them through leadership and or philanthropy, so the giving of time or funds, and also having a tie to the greater Cleveland community. And so it's so hard because we have 20 wonderful winners that you actually can see on our website, again, case.edu/Center for Women. And we've been giving out 2 videos a week of some of the different winners. So you can see on our Instagram, the Case Western Reserve site, or our site, some of those winners. But for example, I feel so much pressure to name all of them, but I will name a few. But for instance,
time would not allow us to name
all of them. But for instance,
I apologize for that.
I know they're just such wonderful women, and that's why we've got this great video series, 2 to 3 minutes about each of them. But one of the women I'd love to highlight is Marilyn Burns. She actually is from the East Cleveland area, and she's been instrumental in helping the Mandel School advance a lot of their social good initiatives in that area, thinking about social determinants of health and being a connector to the community, specifically in support of women. And so she was one of our awardees. Juxtapose that on the other side, Shar Fowler and her daughters Holly Fowler Martin and Chan Fowler, who run the Fowler Foundation, who've been giving a lot of money to women's reproductive rights, to business as a social good, is also one of our winners. So we've got a really amazing range of different ways of supporting women's initiatives and thinking about philanthropy.
What's your favorite part about the job?
Oh my God, what a question. It's so hard to pick, but I do think we have a coalition for women student groups, so all the different women's student groups come together once a month and share stories and support each other, and I facilitate that discussion. Being with students who are advancing this work and making it a part of their life and identity always fills me up. And I can't think, there's nothing else like it in the day-to-day than being with those students, seeing the next generation think about the ways they're going to move social good forward.
How many people walk through your door every week?
Oh my God, every week? I don't know every week, but I can tell you every year, every school year, September to May, over 1,400 individual students use our space. And about 70% of them come in on a regular basis.
And what sort of outreach do you have?
Yeah.
Have you tabbed up the number of people affected by your communications and emails and publications and classes and seminars and
yes,
and the lessons from the people who you've helped?
Yeah, this is such
you've inspired.
Yes, this is so great. So in the so we, because of the breadth of things we do, we have a staff of 9.5. That work on issues, like I said, in our campus community, but also locally and nationwide.
The half person is short?
Half person, tiny. A part-time person. We're just so proud because when I started at the center 4 years ago, we were 4.5 people. So we always like to talk about how much we've grown by 5. That's probably what I should say. But one of our nationwide,
the small one will grow too.
Will grow too, right? Hopefully to be 10. We'll be a full 10 at some point in time. But one of the initiatives that we've been working on nationwide is the training of other women staff about thinking about my research, being able to sustain and be healthy in the workforce. And we, over the course of 4 years with EAB, which is an educational organization, trained almost 7,000 women across, I want to say about 250 institutions across the country about their roles in the workforce and career satisfaction and development. And so that has been a really big milestone for us. We publish a journal about women in higher education. We just had our first inaugural issue with the support of a community member, a double PhD herself, Lillian Emmons, a local philanthropist, helped us publish that, and it's been up for about 2 months, and we've already had over 500 different folks in roles like mine across the country access that looking for support, and that's been really wonderful.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful.
On your to-do list.
Oh, my to-do list.
On your to-do list.
On my to-do list. I have always thought that the center, so it's a pun. You'll like this because I'm starting to learn your sense of humor. We love service.
I'm sorry, you're the only one.
we love
I'm
to
so
think
glad
of
you came on.
Thank you, me too. But you're making we like to talk about ourselves as an incubator, right? And so we're a gendered organization. We always kind of laugh when we say an incubator, but there's been a lot of really.
I'm going to egg you on about that.
There's a lot of cool initiatives that I think have come from us supporting other women, right? So these are some of the things we're doing, the women in our space, these programs, the national programs I was telling you about, but a big part of what we do is support different ideas of different women's groups. So we have seen, we've seed funded things, and so I would love to increase the kind of funding we have to do that, to fund those student projects, to fund those faculty projects, to fund those community projects. 2 of the projects we're most proud of is the Ellipsis Institute for Women of Color in the Academy is now its own nonprofit. And the founder of that was one of our first postdoctoral scholars. We helped some seed funding for that. And then there's a conference in the community called the 4th Trimester Conference that looks at women's mortality post-pregnancy in that 4th trimester, the 3 months after birth. And that's a conference that's been getting some traction in the community. And we helped that student who now is off doing that work start that conference as well.
Dealing with postpartum stress and that type of thing?
Yes, and also postpartum health, particularly looking at women of color, women who might have a disability, women who might be what is considered overweight, and that might give them greater health disparities post-pregnancy.
What is the Ellipsis program?
Yeah, so it is a Women of Color in the Academy program. So it's no longer affiliated with the university. It's become its own nonprofit. And I think it helps women of color who want to be faculty members or want to work in higher education better understand how to navigate that system.
Have you gotten involved with domestic relations issues, divorce issues, helping women with crises?
Such a great question. So, we actually right now are running we want to teach our students about the importance of giving back to all different types of issues that affect women and gender. So we're actually having our students right now collect toiletries for the Journey Center, which is our local domestic violence shelter. We also at the center have a program to help prevent and teach folks about domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking, and have a confidential victim advocate within our center for members of our community that might be affected by those issues.
We've been talking about how the center helps many people with needs.
Yes.
What are the needs of the center? What is on your top 10 list in the
Yes.
couple minutes remaining?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. I think as I think about the future, I want us to be a better community connector, and I want us to spend more time with those in the community and the campus together. One way you can do that is people can come to the 20th anniversary and celebrate with us. That would be so great. Like I said, we're also trying to increase our funding for those startups and community and educational resources, and continue to get the word out about us and the importance of advancing women and gender equity in education.
And how do they reach you if they want to make either a contribution of time or money?
Absolutely. Again, as you so gracefully said before, they can email us at mathercenter@case.edu, mathercenter@case.edu, or call us at 216-368-0985.
And what's the first thing you say to such a person when they call you?
Oh my God. Well, probably usually you've called the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women. This is Angela. How can I help you? But then the very next thing is usually, we actually ask people all the time, how can we get you connected with what we're doing?
You've been tuned into Forum 360. Today we are talking to Angela Clark-Taylor, the Executive Director of the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women at Case Western Reserve University. And we've been talking about the legacy of the center, as well as their 20th anniversary celebration, which is October 18, 2023. On behalf of Forum 360, we thank you for coming, Dr. ACT. On behalf of Forum 360, I'm Sally Henning.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.